Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf. I'm joined by Riley Fessler and Minna Stein, and we're going to try to give you a capsule view of the world so that you can go on your day informed and I don't know, probably not in better spirits, but feeling better that you're informed. Who's going to kick us off here today? Riley?
I've got the feel good story of the day. A Utah judge tossed out a congressional map drawn by the state's Republican
Oh,
legislature,
Jesus. This is the field. This is one of our lives.
ruling it
It's
violated
not like
this,
we get to live forever. No, it's okay. Go on.
This is what it's come to.
This is what it's come to. Oh, a new congressional district in Utah.
ruling it violated the state constitution by gerrymandering. Instead, Judge Diana M. Gibson adopted a map proposed by a centrist coalition that challenged the Republicans' boundaries in a lawsuit. This decision is a significant victory for Democrats ahead of the 2026 midterm elections, despite their generally uphill battle in the heavily Republican state. The adopted map preserves a Democratic-leaning district around Salt Lake City and will be used for the upcoming election cycle unless appealed.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Every little bit helps. The reality is Democrats expect to win a lot of seats in the House next year. Republicans are going to try to cheat. But even if they do, the wins are against Republicans because midterm elections tend to go against the party that holds the White House. The Trump level of popularity is at all-time lows. The likely economic indicators for the year ahead are not good, including possibility of stock market downturn, problems in the housing market, high prices that are likely to go higher due to tariffs, and so forth. And all of those things suggest that the results we saw in last Tuesday's election could carry forward into the midterms. I was talking to somebody yesterday who said that the calculus among some folks on the Hill is if Democrats are up 8% in relative terms to the Republican Party, that could translate into as many as 35 seats swing in the House. That would be obviously a very big deal. The House is pretty close to tie right now with the Republicans with a couple of seat edge. If the Democrats had a big majority there, while they obviously would be up against Trump, Trump would also be up against them. It would change the equation in the United States pretty dramatically. The Senate is also in play. This is something we talked about in an emergency podcast we did yesterday, both for DSR and for Need to Know, with our friends Simon Rosenberg and Tara McGowan. If you're still kind of steaming over the Democratic capitulation on the government shutdown, I strongly urge you to go watch this discussion with Simon and Tara, because not only will you find it therapeutic, they were steaming too, but we try to focus on what comes next and how to be constructive in response to it. So I encourage you to go and give that a look. If you want to fume a little more about it, of course, I wrote a piece yesterday for the Daily Beast in which I suggested that Schumer and other leaders of what I characterize as the Vichy Democrats need to go. So you could go look at that at the Daily Beast too. Okay, enough hyping us. What do you got, Minute?
All right. Enough feel-good news for today.
Okay. Yeah. Whew. Okay, I feel, we got that out of our system. Let's go back to
Exactly.
what
The
we're used
U.S.
to.
The U.S. Supreme Court will review Mississippi's defense of a law allowing mail-in ballots postmarked by Election Day to be counted if received within 5 business days, after a lower court ruled the measure illegal under federal election law. Republicans, including the RNC and President Trump, argue that all ballots must be received by Election Day, warning that extended deadlines undermine election confidence. The case could have major national implications, as about 30 states currently allow similar grace periods for mail-in ballots.
Yeah, this is just one of the many ways that the Republicans are going to throw the kitchen sink at the courts in trying to make it harder to vote. If they thought that the American people were actively in support of them, would they be making it harder to vote? No. They're making it harder to vote because they don't like democracy. And they don't like democracy because they don't think the majority of people will support them. It's telling. Will the court help them? Probably. On this kind of thing, where they can, they lean in the direction of Trump, and we'll see what that all means. Is this something that can be corrected if people inform voters of when they got to get their mail-in ballots and so forth? Yeah, I suppose it could be. Is it fair since the president has influence over the mail services and whether certain mail gets delivered? Yes, I know the post office is an independent agency, but who appoints the people on the board and so forth? The president. And if you have a very Trumpy post office, who knows what could happen? So more to worry about. Thank you, Minna. Now we're back on track with things we can worry about. What do you have, Riley?
President Trump publicly rebuked Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene after she criticized his focus on foreign affairs, urging him to concentrate more on domestic inflation instead. Greene argued that the president's heavy emphasis on meeting foreign leaders was not helping Americans struggling with the high cost of living and other economic concerns. Trump defended himself, stating the presidency requires a, quote, worldwide situation, end quote, focus, and claimed he had already beaten the inflation problem. The internal dispute highlights a fundamental challenge within the Republican coalition, particularly after recent elections where voters showed deep concerns over rising prices.
Yeah, no, there is no problem with rising prices. The president says there wasn't. The president's the president. So if he says it, it's got to be true, right? He says it's all a Democratic hoax. Everything is a Democratic hoax. He doesn't lie. But his Secretary of the Treasury came on to Morning Joe this morning, and amid the various softball questions he got asked, there was one that sort of said, well, isn't this a problem? And they said, well, no, it's not really a problem. Price of gasoline's coming down. It's not even a problem of misperception. It's a problem of, Democrats are lying to you. So if you think the price of electricity is higher, if you think the price of gas is higher, if you think the price of food that you're buying is higher, if you think that those tariffs are causing it, it's an illusion. It's not really happening. It's Democrats whispering in your ear. Maybe they're, the ones taking the money out of your wallet, but it's certainly not prices because the president says so. So there you are. Feel good story. Thanks, Riley.
Isn't that exactly what everyone was criticizing the Biden administration of doing? Like everyone said the economy was bad, but then the Biden administration would say, it's actually not. You're welcome. The economy is great. And everyone was upset. And now Trump's doing the exact same thing. They're too high.
True.
They're actually not. You're welcome.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And that was a point that some people also made around these interviews this morning, that, Trump's in denial. But Trump literally believes that he can persuade America that he's going around saying, well, the price of gas is under $2. Trump wouldn't know which end of a gas hose to put into his car. He may never have filled the gas tank of a car in his life. He has never. Can you imagine him in a grocery store? Or as somebody made the point on the TV this morning, can you imagine? He was talking about how service is actually getting better at airlines. And it's like, when was the last time he flew commercial? Spoiler alert: service is not getting better at airlines. It's terrible. All airlines. Anyway, do you have a story here, Minna, or is it just more complaining?
It's mostly complaining, but there is a story in here also.
Okay.
The COP30 climate summit in Brazil opened with UN climate chief Simon Stell urging nations to cooperate amid rising global divisions that threaten efforts to curb warming. Despite modest progress, new pledges could cut emissions by 12% by 2035. countries remain far from the 60% reduction needed to keep warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. The U.S. government's absence drew criticism as leaders like Brazil's president and Germany's delegation pushed for stronger action on fossil fuels, while indigenous groups and scientists warned of escalating environmental and humanitarian risk.
Yeah, the United States policy at the moment, the U.S. government's policy at the moment on the issue of climate change is la 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 la. It's like covering our ears and just saying, "Oh, it's not happening. It's not happening. It's like the inflation. It's a hoax." You know, water is going to be up to their ass at Mar-a-Lago, and they're going to be, "It's a hoax. That's not really water." It's crazy, crazy. And the United States, while the world is getting together to deal with this global crisis that is going to affect hundreds of millions, if not billions of lives, the U.S. is saying, nope, we don't believe in it. We don't believe it's really happening. We don't believe in science. We're not going to do anything about it. Let's pump more fossil fuels. What can I say? It's like the house is burning down, and the fire department is now run by an arsonist. But it's where we are. Surely, Riley, you've got something better and more uplifting, or remote, and so it doesn't shake us up as much as some of these stories that are closer to home.
Kind of. It does involve our glorious leader, but it is another international story to close things out, because Syria will join the international coalition to defeat the Islamic State group following a historic White House meeting between President Trump and Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa. The U.S. confirmed this shift in foreign policy, which also includes the Treasury Department announcing new measures to lift economic restrictions on Syria, including a suspension of the Caesar Act. The normalization of ties allows Syria to reopen its embassy and signifies a new era of cooperation, despite al-Sharaa's past as the former leader of a designated terrorist organization with a bounty on his head.
Yeah, look, I think that Trump sitting down with this guy is probably constructive. I mean, the guy was somebody, we had to put a price on his head. He was affiliated with extremist groups in the region. But things have changed, and frankly, stability in Syria is important. And I've got some bad news for you, folks. You can be as worked up by Trump's attitude on climate, or Trump's attitude on inflation, or Trump's attitude on the rule of law in the United States, or any of the issues as normally gets you. But there are a few areas where Donald Trump's foreign policy actions are either what you would expect from another administration or a net positive. And frankly, if you go to Israel right now, people are happy that there's a ceasefire. People are happy in Gaza that there is a ceasefire. The middle, there are people in the Middle East that see a change in the region that could be more stabilizing following actions that occurred under Biden, but also as a result of actions like the Abraham Accords that occurred under Trump before and then were carried through by Biden. Same is true with China, where Trump is likely to produce some kind of a deal with the Chinese that may actually stabilize the relationship a little bit. Same is true with regard to getting European countries to pay a little bit more in terms of their contribution to NATO. I think, our commitment here is to the truth. And so there are areas where net, the contribution or the ideas of the Trump administration is troubling or dangerous. There are also some areas where things are not so bad or actually constructive. We'll try to report them all for you here and on all of our other podcasts. I encourage you to listen to the one I just mentioned. We'll have DSR. We've got the TNR Daily. We have Words Matter coming up, Scylla Consciousness, the podcast that we do on AI, energy, and climate coming up. Got a lot for you. And if you like what you're hearing, and you want to support our podcast, then go to the dsrnetwork.com, click on membership, and support it. If you're watching us on YouTube, as people increasingly are, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Everything we do comes out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. The more of you who subscribe, the more of you who will get to see our big-time experts who are joining us for each of these discussions. So we encourage you to do that, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow on this and all the other podcasts that we're doing. Until then, bye-bye.